Friday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're here live, back Sundays 4 to 6 p.m. Jason Burmas will be here live this Sunday when I'm out of town. But he jumps on a big jet airplane and goes out to do interviews for his film, Invisible Enemies. That's what I'm off doing, is doing interviews for the next film. We're going to go back to Wayne Paul here in just a moment and your phone calls. But before we do that, speaking of the free market, I want to tell you about some of the sponsors we have that make this radio show possible. And I do believe in these sponsors. We only take sponsors that I believe in. I think they have great products. And one of them is mysolarbackup.com. A lot of things can cut off your electrical power, hurricanes, snow, ice storms. Listeners should move towards getting off the grid, and here's a good way to do just that. A solar power generator is now available from our longtime sponsor, Solutions from Science. You get an emergency power backup kit, which consists of the Power Source 1800-watt generator and a high-efficiency solar panel designed to provide endless electricity. Remember, too, that gas generators need gas. But in a blackout, gas pumps can't pump gas because they run on electricity. It's the perfect emergency backup for troubled times. The government doesn't own the sun yet, folks, so make your move today. That's mysolarbackup.com. That's mysolarbackup.com. Or give them a call toll-free, 877-327-0365. 877-327-0365. And one other sponsor I wanted to let you know about is Home Gain. You can check out Mac's Little Orange Gorilla at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. It's a completely free site. It is advertiser-driven. It's a fabulous site. Been around for more than 10 years. My favorite thing they have is the Home Cell Maximizer. You put in what type of house you have, the region it's in, the most inexpensive upgrades to do, for the best resale, little things you can do, little tricks that really help get it sold for a higher price. They have the Street View thing that's free as well. They have a free estimate. You type in your home address, you'll get a free estimate of your home's value from the internal system that the realtors are seeing. It's homegain.com, HOMEGAIN.com, homegain.com. Okay, going back to Wayne Paul, Dr. Ron Paul, Congressman Ron Paul's brother, finishing up with your upbringing. So your brother gets into the free market economics. He's a doctor. Then I guess you started getting involved with Barry Goldwater somehow. Tell us more about the inside scoop on your brother.
Well, I think his total goal and effort when he first decided to run for Congress was to educate people in understanding free enterprise economics. And he said to Carol, his wife, the first time he ran, he said, don't worry, Carol, I'm not going to win. I just want to get the message out. Well, the first time he didn't win. But she says, what are you going to do if you do win? Well, the next time he ran, he won. Now, when he first ran for Congress back in the mid-'70s, he had a platform, one-page platform he was running on, and it just so happens that my wife gave him his first contribution, and he sent her a thank you note, and the second page was his platform of what he was running on, which was basically free enterprise economics. But if you were to read that single page today, you would think he wrote it yesterday, because he's never changed. And I think that's the most consistent thing that anybody can ever say as far as my brother's concerned, is he's never wavered from the truth and from the facts and from the Constitution. And he has just been amazing and steadfast in that, and I think people today now realize that.
And you judge a tree by its fruits. Do you remember any of the things on that one-page platform?
Well, I can't remember right off, except while I'm talking, we'll find it, and maybe my wife...
Sure. Coming up after the next break, if you can, it's just very, very interesting history here. Now, and as your brother has humbly and rightfully said, he is just an articulate, genteel, intelligent focal point. And 2 years ago, well, now a year and a half ago, at Bilderberg, our inside sources that have been proven to be very, very accurate said that they were worried not about Ron Paul winning, during that campaign, but that they were worried about the movement, that the biggest movement now in high schools and universities wasn't the controlled left paradigm or the controlled right paradigm of the collectivist, but that people were now rediscovering the Bill of Rights, Constitution, and becoming free market constitutionalists, and that people were discovering the private Federal Reserve. And I think they had well-founded fears. Now here we are a year and a half later, and we've gone from almost, and I know I keep repeating this, no one knowing the Fed was private, being laughed at, to now the enemies had to come out in the open and go, okay, we're private, but we run things for your own good, and if you audit us, we'll cause a depression. Basically terrorism, economic terrorism. And we have open announcements of a new Bank of the World we'll pay our carbon taxes to, and now for world government, and hundreds of articles a month pushing this on us, and nobody's buying it. All the things we talked about have come true and are happening. We're now at this key battle point in history that your brother talked about, that I talked about, that when the crisis came, when the bankers were imploding the world economy by design to bring in their system, that was a weak point for them. Their great moment of triumph, but also their weak point if we point out, hey, the emperor's butt naked, this is a fraud, the emperor's new clothes. And now to really see it's so viral, this idea of liberty, I mean, this shows us we can have victory. This gives us hope. It shows people that had kind of given up, who had been fighting for decades like yourself, not saying you ever did, that none of this was done for naught. That the seeds we planted that a lot of people ignored are now sprouting in the minds of men and women everywhere. Can you speak to just the amazing revolution of liberty and freedom we're seeing?
Well, I have a book sitting in front of me that I continually tomorrow and reread. It's called The History of Our National Debt, The Coming Battle. It's written by Lorraine and Paul Walters. And if somebody really wants to understand where we're at, if they read this history, it'll absolutely...
Yeah, didn't they republish that from an 1898 book and they wrote the foreword?
That is correct.
That's an excellent book.
It is so enlightening that it's worth the read by anybody interested in it. I keep reading it because I learn something new every time.
And for those that don't know, this was a guy I read it 10 years ago when he republished it, in banking, who saw all this coming and said we're being taken over by bankers 15 years before they did it.
Yeah, that's correct. In Ron's letter to my wife, he says, I want to cut spending, cut taxes, cut inflation. When I have honest money, I want to cut crime. I want to let people live in peace and security. And I want to get rid of government controls and regulations. And that was basically one sheet of paper that he wrote back in 1974 was the first time he ran. And his motto at that time was to say, put big government on a diet. And that was one of the first advertisements that he put out in the mid-'70s out of it. So
speaking of your brother, let me ask you a question, Wayne Paul. I challenged him about 2 months before he announced for president privately on the phone when he was on as a guest during the break. I said, please run. You got to do it just to educate the public. You morally cannot say no. I know you don't want to fly around and do the thousands of speeches. I know you already have an exhausting schedule. I know you're a real statesman, but I said, you must run for president. And I said, I know you're going to get attacked if you don't win later. But I said, regardless, you'll educate a lot of people. And out of that big awakening, even bigger awakenings will happen. And he said, no, that's what a lot of other people are telling me, family and others. And he said, we'll see soon. And so many other people were talking to him behind the scenes, because this is history. Can you tell us what was going on, what the debates were, what the thoughts were on him running for president?
Well, I think it all boils down to whether the people were ready to hear the message in such a large arena as running for president. And I think he became amazed at the crowds, the numbers of people, the contributions he received, the effort that was put forth by people all over the country, the number of young people that came out and supported him. It actually, I think, blew him away and made him a very humble individual, because he never expected it to be as big as it really was. So I think he was humbled by it. I think he was in awe by it. And I think every hour of every moment of every time he spent doing that, he is absolutely delighted to have done it. And I think it continues today with his